now. Ferdinand von Eigier. Nice. Chiara.
Should this really be the reason I'm making a video on Three Houses when it's a dead topic?
Fuck it.
So why am I only now making this video when the game's been out for over a year? It's because I almost have 300 hours in this game, and I still haven't even done Silver Snow yet. Now, for those wondering why I'm only talking about 10 students and not the whole cast, welcome to my channel. This is what I do. And for the regulars, I figured this would be better since I don't have as much to say about the students I'm not as fond of. That said, Three Houses cast has to be one of the best in all of Fire Emblem because of how fleshed out it is. Given how much voice acting did for the cast of Echoes, it's no surprise that Three Houses characters ended up being as popular as they are. However, unlike Echoes, Three Houses has tons of support, giving characters who might seem bland and one-note at face value an opportunity to flourish and develop into fan favorites. Also memes. So, I'll go over the criteria now as I'm making this list a bit stricter than usual. First, no Lords. I know they're students as well, but I already talked about all 3 of them in my top 10 FE Lords video, and I'd rather talk about different characters. Rule number 2, no Ashen Wolves. Like I said, I haven't finished Silver Snow yet, and I wanted to use that run, which I'll maybe try to stream on Twitch, link in the description, please follow me there, we can all have a good time, to see how I feel about these characters. I just don't know enough about them to properly judge them, but from what I've seen of them in Cindered Shadows, I think I'm gonna like all of them. Finally, rule number 3, no professors. I know that should be obvious, but if I don't outright say it, there's gonna be that one guy asking why Shamir isn't on this list. Now with all that out of the way, know that this entire video is just one dumbass's opinion. You could have none of these characters as your favorites, and I'd understand why you like those characters since this cast is just that good. I know I've been aggressive about my opinions in past videos, but I've learned to stop taking myself so seriously, and I really just want an opportunity to talk about the characters in this game. There's something to love and hate about anyone in the entire roster, and I feel that's why this cast is so compelling. Now with all of that out of the way, kick back and relax, viewer, as I'm going to talk about some of my favorite characters in a game that, in all honesty, is way too long for its own good. And I say this as a Xenoblade and Persona fan. Starting off this list, I have the one character who caught everyone's attention during the trailers, Dorothea. Dorothea was guaranteed to be popular because of 2 very prominent reasons. Those being her design and name, as that sweet hat of hers invited all the JoJo's memes. Dorothea is the only commoner in the Black Eagle's house and had a difficult life prior to her time at Garreg Mach. She was an orphan on the streets until Manuela discovered her, and she became the mystical songstress of the Middle Frank Opera Company in just 3 years. This led to Dorothea having many interactions with nobility, many of whom had no problems being complete jackasses towards her. This warps Dorothea's perception of herself as she believed no one cared about anything but her looks because of the fact that she didn't have a crest, hence why she tries to woo a suitor at Garreg Mach as she wants to find someone before she thinks it's too late. That changes once you enter the war arc, however, as her self-loathing morphs into full-force depression. Now, Dorothea is worried about finding true love as instead of looking for her happiness in others, she looks for it in herself. Her A supports show this change as her partners in these conversations help her see that beneath the looks, she really is a kind and compassionate woman. Dorothea's motivations aren't as grandiose as revenge or revolution, and I feel she serves as a reminder of what everyday folk would be thinking about during the war arc with her much more grounded and relatable goals. Moving on to stats, Dorothea's growths aren't the best, but having 40% HP, magic, and speed growths are perfectly serviceable for her, as she is easily the best candidate for your dancer, given her good Reason and Faith learn sets. Reason gives her Thunder, Thoron, and Sagittae, which aren't bad, but on top of that, she also gets Meteor, which no other student can learn, and Agnia's Arrow at A+ Reason, the strongest single target Reason spell in the game. Faith-wise, her only noteworthy spell is Physic, as everyone gets Heal and Nosferatu, but that's definitely not a bad skill to have. Overall, Dorothea is a solid dancer with great utility, and a strong recruitment candidate for any path. Before I move on, I just want to praise her design, as I feel that the dark red dress and large jewelry do a great job of showing that this beautiful rose still has some thorns on her. one bewitching beauty to the next, it's time for me to talk about the idol maiden, Hilda. Hilda is a character that had so much hype going into the game pre-release, with some people going so far as to say,
the best girl in the entire game, the best girl in the entire game, the best girl in the entire game.
Now that we've all played the game, I think it's safe to say, not even close. I mean, it's not her fault that Golden Deer has cutthroat competition for best girl, but what exactly is it about Hilda that draws people in?
Hey, Cyril.
And she radiates dumb bitch energy.
Yeah? Huh.
Yeah, that sounds about right, although twin tails plus pink hair really gets the people going, and her S support art exerts a heavy energy, netting her even more popularity. Moving on to her character, Hilda was the youngest daughter of a noble house and has an older brother who sounds like Radiant on Ike, by which I mean a Gary Stew. This has Hilda become lazy because she's scared of screwing things up and not doing things as perfectly as her brother does. However, if she's truly motivated to act, she has no problem stepping up and helping out, as we see in one of the best supports in the game between her and Marianne. Also, pause the video, go rewatch that Uno parody between these two because it is fucking hilarious. So, now that you're back from that laugh, you're probably wondering why I have Hilda on this list if, in all honesty, I don't really relate to her or think she's that deep a character. If you actually ask that question,
what's wrong with you?
Her character may not be the best for me personally, but she is a monster of a unit and insanely fun to use. While she's only proficient with lances and axes, that's all she needs to get started on her career as a beastly wyvern rider. Hilda is fantastic offensively with her 45% strength and 50% speed growth, which, when coupled with Death Blow and Darting Blow, both of which she can get with relative ease, turn Hilda into a player phase juggernaut. However, her bulk is amazing too, with her 50% HP and 35% defense growth that, when comboed with Wrath and a Killer Axe, turn Hilda into an enemy phase tank who can crit like crazy. Hilda also randomly has bolting in her Reason Learn set, making her a decent candidate for your dancer if you feel like doing something different with her. With all this potential, it's clear that Hilda is one of the best units in the game, and I didn't even go over her crest weapon, Frey Krugel, and its 23 might? Heroes, you might want to correct your description of her, because this woman is neither idol nor maiden. I didn't have an enemy to separate this iconic duo, so next up is the soft-spoken sweetheart, Marianne. Marianne has difficulty talking to people, but gets along well with animals, so she's kinda like Snow White if you add blue hair, take away the dwarves, and replace them with depression. The source of Marianne's unease with others is her mystery crest, the Crest of Maurice. Maurice is one of the 10 elites who was erased from history because he turned into a demonic beast after the war. Since it is believed the crest caused the transformation, Marianne believes her crest is a source of misfortune that will eventually turn herself into a beast as well. Once you beat her paralogue, you allay her fears and get a relic sword that deals magic damage, which is honestly better on other units. When it comes to combat, Marianne is the healer of the Golden Deer as she is proficient in Faith, has a 50% magic growth, and a 40% speed growth. However, she is also good with swords, riding, and flying, and only bad in brawling and armor. She also has a hidden talent in lances, which would give Marianne a lot of flexibility in class choices, were it not for her 20% strength growth. I mean, she has no problems using axes, so you could give her Death Blow, but she's going to struggle as a physical class and truly excels as a mage. Her spell list in Reason gives her Blizzard, Thoron, Cutting Gale, and Fimbulvetter, while Faith gives her the unique spells of Physic, Silence, and Aura. Silence is interesting as she's the only student who gets this skill, and shutting down a mage or healer for a turn can be situationally useful. Marianne's attributes lent to her doing well as a Holy Knight, that way she can ride Dorothea into battle, but I only recommend this if she's not your primary healer, as you will feel the lack of +10 healing pretty quickly. Overall, Marianne intrigues me because of how tragic her character is. She's the only student who you never fight post-time skip in any path, and if you decide to meet her at the Goddess Tower, you find out in her A support with Byleth that she was praying to the goddess for her death. Put 2 and 2 together and you understand why I want nothing but the best for Marianne. From one horribly depressed girl to the next, we have Bernadetta. Bernie is your classic shut-in character, or hikikomori for the weebs out there. Why is she like this? Well, some say it's for comedy, as many of her C supports use the funny haha music and think the game is mocking mental health. To that I say, truth can be stranger than fiction. You know how Ingrid breaks down Bernie's door and how Kaspar basically kidnaps her? Well, a high schooler usually doesn't understand how fucking horrible those ideas are. As a former shut-in who went to a fancy boarding school, I have had the lock on my door broken twice, the hinges from my door removed, and have been dragged out of my bed by the football team. What I want to get at is that there is a difference between Bernadetta's character and the way the game initially presents it. Back to my original question, why is Bernie like this? Take it away, game.
To train me to be a good, submissive wife, he'd do things like tie me to a chair and leave me there all day, challenging me to stay quiet.
I'm gonna kill that mother.
Yeah, I think I know a certain rapping reaper I'd want Bernie's dad to meet. Bernie is just so precious, as I remember how much her A support with Byleth shocked me. Mostly because I was surprised that Byleth managed to have a good support. Bernie had improved so much over her 5 years, but it wasn't forced and felt organic, which I greatly appreciated, since all she wanted to do was be with her friends, even in combat. Look at this, meek little Bernadetta growing up to be a reliable soldier for you? Kinda morbid, but I still find it adorable. Combat-wise, there is a lot Bernie can do. Growth-wise, she appears weak, with only a 35% strength growth and a fragile 20% defense growth, but she has a solid 55% in skill and 50% speed growth. Her low damage output is offset by her personal skill, Persecution Complex, which gives her plus 5 damage when she is not at full HP. Something that's very easy to pull off. Combo that with a Brave Bow and Bernie can deal an extra 20 damage in player phase, since you know she's gonna be quadding. Bernie also gets the skill Vengeance once she trains her lances enough, which converts her lost HP into raw damage, making her a potential boss killer. Bernie is just so precious to me, and if you're there for her when she really needs somebody, she'll be there for you when you need her most. On the battlefield. So, I've talked about 4 female characters on this list so far. Am I finally going to talk about a guy? Nope, because next up is another noble with the fucked up father, a Mercedes. Hot damn, I'm on a roll with these transitions. Despite being in the Blue Lion's house, Mercedes is a noble of the Adrestian Empire who grew up as a commoner in Fargus. Her house dissolved once her dad died, and soon after, her mother remarried and bore a crest-bearing child to another noble. Since that child bore a crest, Mercedes and her mother were then mistreated by said noble. This prompted her mother to abandon her son and flee with Mercedes to a church in Fargus. Mercedes is then adopted by a merchant who wanted to use her crest to boost his own influence, hence why she attends Garreg Mach. What I admire about Mercedes is how she's always calm and has a positive outlook through both parts of the game. She's very much the mom of the group, and it's not just because she can cook, bake, and sew, but it's because she's always willing to help others out. However, her past did leave its mark on her, as Mercedes' selflessness stems from her always being a tool for another's gain. In the war arc, she finally achieves her freedom as she realizes that her life is her own to decide what to do with, not some arrogant blowhards. And of course, since Mercedes is one of the most saintly and pure characters in all of Fire Emblem, she decides that after the war, she wants to dedicate her life to helping out people through the church. Before I get into stats, let me say that you should actively try to recruit Mercedes in every path because she is by far the best healer in the game for 2 reasons that aren't. In Mercedes' Faith Learn set, she is the only healer who gets both Physic and Fortify, both of which are godsend spells. Mercedes' other proficiency lies in Reason, which gives her Fire, Thunder, Bolganon, and Ragnarok, letting Mercedes make great offensive use of her 50% magic, 45% skill, and 40% speed growths, all of which are great for any mage. Like I said with Marianne, I strongly recommend keeping her as a bishop if she's your main healer, but if you decide to go the offensive path, she does wonders as a Grimoire. Mercedes is one of the most supportive characters in all of Fire Emblem, and her relationship with Annie is just so precious. However, if you like Mercedes just because you want a mommy GF...
Oh, you're so dirty!
Okay, with the last 5 entries being dominated by waifus, we can finally talk about some guys, as I'll talk about my best boy of the Black Eagles, Kaspar.
You what?
Okay, before you get your pitchforks and ask me why
I am Ferdinand von Eyre.
isn't here, it's because I hate him and I like Kaspar more. You can tell me why I'm wrong in the comments, but let me talk about this underrated boy first. Kaspar is a character I would describe as refreshingly simple. He is undeniably hot-headed and reckless, but there's more to him than those traits. Kaspar was the second-born son of House Burgleys, however, he didn't bear a crest. With Kaspar left on his own, he developed a competitive personality and felt a need to prove himself. What I like about this aspect of Kaspar is that it isn't any pompous reason like upholding his house's honor that motivates him, but he's just a guy who follows his heart, and since he's all about protecting others, I think it's in the right place. Since Kaspar is all about starting fights, how is he in combat? Well, that's the awkward thing for the little blighter, as so many people seem to complain about him, and I can see why. Kaspar is only good with axes and gauntlets, but is bad with bows, reason, and authority. Combine this with his basic speed that does not synergize with axes, and just like his character, he doesn't make a good first impression. However, if you keep with Kaspar, his 45% strength, skill, and speed growth will kick in and make him a beast. I know he can be a good wyvern unit, but I liked using him as a war master so he can stick to his specialty. It's simple, but eventually Kaspar can quad with gauntlets and make good use of Wrath thanks to his 55% HP growth and the plus 20 crit bonus the class gives. Yes, Kaspar radiates big dumb himbo energy, but I love it. You can't deny that he has some of the funniest supports in the game, and his dynamic with Linhardt is also one I really enjoy. However, his supports with Petra and Shamir show that beneath all that bluster, he really is a genuinely good man. While Kaspar is dense when it comes to women, no man is denser than this edgelord. Felix Hugo Fraldarius is Fire Emblem's version of Sasuke Uchiha, minus the whole genocide bit. Felix is the second son of House Fraldarius and had an older brother named Glenn. Glenn was the reason Felix picked up a sword, prompting him to pursue strength in order to one day beat his older brother because he looked up to him. Upon learning about Glenn's death in the tragedy of Duskur, Felix remained steadfast in his pursuit of strength, despite the fact that he knew he was dueling a corpse. Glenn's death had also caused a family rift, as his father's reaction to the news made Felix question and ultimately despise the values of virtue and honor that Fargus upheld. This bitterness morphed this once easygoing personality into the crass, cynical, sarcastic tsundere that, let's be honest, we all frickin' love. Whether it's his snark, his obliviousness with women, or his badass moments like in Azure Moon when he takes up his father's dying wish by keeping Dimitri in check, there's some aspect of Felix that people love, and that definitely extends into his combat. Felix wants to be the greatest swordsman in all of Fodlan, and he just might be with his whopping 55% strength and speed growths combined with his 45% in HP and skill. He's proficient with swords, bows, and brawling, and is only truly bad with authority, as his Bane for reason is offset by his hidden talent. But his Bane with authority is also a non-issue when you take into account his personal skill. Lone Wolf grants Felix plus 5 attack if he doesn't have a battalion, or has a battalion with 0 durability, which is perfect for him as training up his authority is a pain in the ass, and the raw damage is incredibly helpful. For class pathing, I recommend getting Deathblow and Vantage before sticking him in Assassin, as his proficiencies make getting lethality easy. After that, I personally recommend War Master, as Felix loves the plus 20 crit that class gives. If you're bored, you can try Mortal Savant with that hidden talent he has, but why? Felix may be a cliche character, but he's such a well done cliche that I and many others are absolutely for it. My love for the Blue Lions doesn't stop with Felix, as next is my candidate for best girl of the house. Sorry Ingrid fans, but I gotta go with Annette. Annette was born to House Dominic and lived a normal life, that is until her father Gustav, or Gilbert, exiled himself out of shame for not being at the tragedy of Duskur to protect King Lambert, thus becoming the second worst father in all of Fodlan, because, let's be honest, no one's taking that title from Bernie's dad. Annette was then enrolled at the Royal School of Sorcery in the capital, where she met her best friend, Mercedes. Despite all that Annette went through, she managed to be a top student at the school and carried that can-do attitude with her to Garrick Mach. While at the academy, she finds out that her father is there and wants answers. You can see the reconciliation in Azure Moon as Annette's optimism breaks through to her dad, giving her the happy ending that she deserves, although Gilbert sure as hell doesn't. I personally relate to Annette as I had a dad who walked out on me and was an ambitious A student. That is, until I got depressed and became a degenerate who makes cringy YouTube videos. What I also love about Annette is just how freaking adorable she is. She likes to sing cute songs, eat sweets with her best friend, and even though she's kind of a klutz, she always tries her best, making her even more precious. On top of that, her time skip design is so good, as I love the mix of white, blue, and orange colors that give her this mature aura, although she's still our precious ray of sunshine. Regarding combat, Annette is good with axes, reason, and authority, and is only bad with bows and armor. The axe boon works with her crest weapon, Crusher, an 18 might axe that deals magical damage. I could be wrong, but I think it's pretty lackluster, especially since it doesn't even have 1-2 range. Annette is a support mage, but also has some good damage coming from her Reason Learn set as she gets Wind, Cutting Gale, Sagittate, and Excalibur, while Faith gives her the most powerful light spell, Abraxas. Her support comes from rally skills as her personal is basically rally strength, and leveling up her authority will grant her rallies for speed, resistance, and eventually movement. Overall, Annette is a solid mage with her 50% magic and skill growths, even though she might be a bit on the squishy side. But I want to point out her 35% speed growth and base 7 speed in context to this support with Mercedes.
Run, Mercy!
What?
Wait for me, Annie. You know I'm not as fast as you. Run!
So that was a fucking lie.
Annette is my best girl in Blue Lions, but I haven't said who my best boy is yet, and I want to talk about the Bishi cinnamon roll of the house, Ash. Ash had the hardest upbringing out of any character on this list so far. He's of common birth, but his parents died when he was around 10 years old, leaving him with his 2 younger siblings as orphans. With no other option, Ash turned to thievery despite it conflicting with his morality. One day, Ash broke into a noble's house when a book called Lug and the Maiden of Wind caught his eye. Despite his illiteracy, Ash was transfixed by the gallant knight on the cover, causing him to get caught by the lord of the house, Lonato. Upon seeing Ash, Lonato gave the book to him and taught him how to read. After learning about the severity of Ash's situation, Lonato, just out of the kindness of his heart, decided to adopt Ash and his siblings, even though he already had a legitimate heir. While Ash got along well with his new older brother, that relationship didn't last long as he was executed by the church just 3 years later. The story doesn't end there, as in the 3rd chapter of the game, you have to fight and kill Lonato, who leads a rebellion against the church, seeking justice for the unwarranted death of his son. Now, there are 2 types of people. Ones who couldn't force this little baby to kill Lonato, then there's people like me.
I killed them. I killed them all. What does that make me?
You're a monster!
In battle, I remember speculating about units with my college roommate, and after looking at his growths, we both agreed that Ash was gonna suck. 35% growths in HP, strength, and resistance coupled with his 20% growth in defense is a recipe for frailty. His only redeeming growths are his 55% in skill, 50% in speed, and 40% luck. Surprisingly, this is enough for Ash, as he's good with just axes and bows, has a hidden talent in lances, and is only bad in reason. The way you want to set up Ash is to first put him in Brigand to get Deathblow because he has easy access to it, then raise up his sword rank so he can get lethality from Assassin. From there, it's a clear path to Sniper or Bow Knight, depending on if you focus on his writing. Ash also does well as a Wyvern Lord, considering he's already good in 2 out of the 3 requirements needed for the class, and there's nothing stopping him from being a good flying unit. Ash is just such a pure boy who carried me throughout my Blue Lions run so hard that I'm as devoted to him as he is to Lonato. Before I get to my number 1, I just want to give some honorable mentions. From Black Eagles, I hoped Petra would be Lyn 2.0, but with Edelgard as the main focus, her character didn't really develop that much, so she fell a bit flat for me. But in combat, I loved trading her in so many different weapons and essentially making her a female Gilgamesh with wings. And I know Ferdinand is good, the voice acting is immaculate, he just reminds me a little too much of some people I knew back in boarding school. But I get why people like him. In Blue Lions, I mean, come on, they're all so good. Sylvain just missed the mark for me since his character development into supports didn't go as far as the story took it, but he's still a great character and unit overall. I had high hopes for Ingrid, but again, she suffers the same problem Ferdinand does in that she just doesn't get as much attention as she deserves. However, in combat, she's just so fast that she can literally do anything. I think her Reason Learned set isn't awful, and since she has equal strength and magic growth, the new Dark Flyer class can give her tons of utility. But alright, I think it's time I talk about my best girl in Three Houses. She's from the Golden Deer, her name starts with an L, and she's by far the best at what she does. Time for me to talk about Leonie. Leonie's an incredible unit who has a solid 40% strength growth and 55% speed growth that shred through any problem units in player phase. She's the best non-Lord Archer in the game, and her lack of a crest isn't even that much of a weakness for her. Sorry, I skipped straight to her stats since her character is my punchline for this bit. Look, I like Leonie, GD kills it in the best girl department for me, but her character. I know it's a bit hypocritical for me to like Camilla and Tharja, but not Leonie. However, the Yandere's obsession stems from romantic feelings, which at a base level, I can understand because I've seen enough anime. On the other hand, Leonie's obsession stems from idolization, and the dynamic is more like how a kid feels about Batman or Spider-Man. In terms of character, Leonie is definitely one of the most shafted in the game, as even her paralog serves to develop Zenith and Flame more than it does her or Linhardt. Anyways, I like her because she's a top tier unit, and I relate to her ideals of wanting to pay back those who helped her. Also, her being broke is just a constant mood that you feel in college, and it wasn't that different for me in boarding school. Alright, time to talk about the consumer of cakes, Lysitthia. Lysitthia is my favorite character in Three Houses, but when I first met her, I despised this sassy child. Pre-timeskip Lysitthia is an absolute brat who insists that her being the youngest at Garreg Mach doesn't make her immature, which she is, or that she's not afraid of ghosts, which she is, or that she doesn't eat too many sweets, which she does. I hated her so much in the first part of the game, and then I learned about her backstory and things started making sense. Lysitthia was born to House Ordelia, and when she was young, her house provided aid to Hrym, an Empire territory that tried to secede. This backfired when the rebellion was stamped out, and House Ordelia effectively fell under Empire rule. Once in power, members of Twisted were instilled, who used the children of the house for inhumane crest experiments. All of the children died except for one, that being Lysitthia, who now had a major crest of Gloucester and a minor crest of Charon. However, there was a catch. Lysithia's life was drastically shortened because of her dual crests. Once the mages learned of this, they quickly abandoned the territory, leaving Lysitthia and her family in shambles. Now, Lysitthia only had one goal: dissolving House Ordelia so her parents could finally live a peaceful life. Considering she's on a time limit of about 10 years by the time she reaches Garreg Mach, her impatience and immaturity make a lot more sense, as she's taking on more responsibility than any one person could reasonably handle, all while the pressure of an early grave looms over her. While her crests do bring her great suffering, Byleth kinda loves them. She has abysmal 25% or lower growth in most of her stats, but that's offset by her incredible 60% in magic and skill, and a 50% speed growth, which makes Lysitthia the best magic nuke in the game. She's proficient in Reason, Faith, and Authority, while her Banes are in the OG Weapon Triangle and Armor. She has a hidden talent in Swords, but I'll get back to that. As one of the 3 mages in the game who uses dark magic, Lysithia's learned set in Reason consists of the following: Miasma, the base dark magic spell, Swarm, which lowers the target's speed after combat, Luna, which pierces resistance, Dark Spikes, which, you know.
I have no need of you.
You're in my way!
And finally, Hades, also known as
Tactical nuke incoming!
This is further supplemented by her Faith Learn set, which gives her Seraphim and Abraxas, but also Warp. With her incredible magic, Lysitthia is the crux of many one-turn map clears because of this spell. As if Lysitthia wasn't broken enough, her budding talent in Swords is actually useful to her. Once mastered, Lysitthia will learn the skill Soul Blade, a combat art that deals magical damage. Combine this with her personal skill Mastermind, which doubles the amount of weapon and class experience she earns in combat, and Lysitthia can easily get Vantage from Mercenary. There's also her relic, Thyrsus. Thyrsus is the staff you get from Lorenz's paralog, and it gives its user +2 range on magic attacks. Why is this Lysithia's relic and not Lorenz's? The staff passively grants its wielder Pavis and Aegis if they have a Crest of Gloucester. Since Lysitthia has no 1-3 range spells, she's by far the best candidate for this staff, as it negates her frailty by having her nuke without fear of retaliation. Even if she has to fight an enemy phase, survive one attack and you're in vantage range. And if all that wasn't enough, she can even do well in the meme class that is Mortal Savant. It has more movement than Gremory, and she gets sword fare from it, making her 11 sword attacks even more powerful. Lysitthia is just so good at everything she does, and I didn't even mention the DLC, which can give her even more utility. When I play Silver Snow, screw it, I'm gonna make Lysitthia my dancer because why not? It already works with her kit. With the heaps of praise I've showered onto Lysitthia, I can safely say that she is my favorite character in all of Fire Emblem. I was, and still kind of am, Camilla trash, but Lysitthia just does everything I like about Camilla, but better. I love her design since it reflects her maturity and dark past. She's debatably the best unit in the game, and she's willing to do anything for her friends and family, no matter the cost. I'm the Omni Blade, and I'm gonna go get some cakes to fuel my sugar nuke so she can protect me in the Best Girl War that's gonna happen in the comments. So I'm doing this a bit differently for me as I'm recording this before I've made the video, because I have this moment of quiet I want to take advantage of because lately, since my landlord evicted the neighbors below me, he's been reworking on that whole apartment, and just throughout the whole day they've been doing work. They gutted the whole thing. You could see from like window to window, and it's quiet now, and I just want to take this time to record before the banging comes back, or maybe it doesn't. I don't know if they're done for the day, but the few things I want to say here. I'm gonna try and stream Silver Snow on Twitch. I have no idea if I'll mention this in the video some other time. Maybe I do at the end, after I talked about Lysitthia. I doubt I will because I have that other joke. Did I put it in? Maybe. Did I not? I don't know. But yeah, I want to stream Silver Snow. I've done like most of the boring parts. I am gonna try to make Dancer Lysitthia work, so that'll be really fun. But yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitch, you can pretty easily find me. Just put underscores instead of spaces. Maybe I have a link in the description, and yeah, it could hopefully be a chill time. It's fun when I do the gacha streams, but yeah, I want to see what I can do with that there. As for YouTube, I don't think I'm going to do primarily FE stuff, so if you're here just for Fire Emblem, you can leave now. If you leave, no ill will. I greatly appreciate you being here for the ride. It's not the direction I want to go with for the obvious reason, and then, which I'm just not even going to mention anymore, and then there's also the fact that I don't really feel like I'm going to have the same passion if they go the direction that Three Houses is taking Fire Emblem in, just because, I don't know, I fell in love with the Fates Awakening formula. Three Houses, it's not bad, obviously, but it's just different. It's different, I don't know if it's like the thing for me, but obviously it's still great. It's a phenomenal game, of course. And yeah, I mean, I'm a man who likes his JRPGs first, and I want to talk about more JRPGs. I want an excuse to play more JRPGs, and so maybe I can use this for that. I mean, with 2020 being 2020, and me having graduated into the worst job climate, probably worse than 2008, it's weird. Like, should I have tried doing the full YouTuber thing? Now it's like, yeah, you should have, you dipshit, but like, whatever, c'est la vie. I did what I did, I got my degree. What I'll do with it, who knows at this point? If I end up doing the full-time YouTuber route, I end up doing it. It's not something I'm planning. The big thing for me is that I want YouTube to still feel fun. And obviously with 2020 being 2020, that hasn't been the case, and a lot of stuff's gone down. It's just killed my mood and my motivation, so yeah, that's like it. I mean, I'm thankfully still fine. My mom and I are like still functioning together somehow. But yeah, whatever happens, happens, and if I keep going, it's probably not going to be primarily Fire Emblem, but we'll see what we do. I'm hoping to do maybe like Persona stuff, maybe talk about other games that I'm really interested in. And yeah, that's about it. I rambled on for like 3 minutes now. Usually about a good length, bit too long, but whatever, we'll make it work. And yeah, hope to see you guys next time. If not, no problem, no worries, but if you stick around, I really do appreciate it. Alright, I'm gonna get up out of here. See ya.